Are you concerned about the growing influence of political extremism, hyperpolarization, and misinformation? Well, you're not alone. This is the American Values Coalition podcast, where we explore the root causes of these societal ills and provide you with strategies to counter them.
If you and I got down to nitty gritty on issues, we would agree on probably 90% of things, and then we would very, very seriously disagree on 10% of them. And that's okay. And I think that the society gets to build around those 90% of things we agree on.
So in a recent op-ed published in First Things by Meghan Basham, she accused us of being a Democrat front group and injecting progressive politics into the church. And as part of her argument for doing that, she noted a donation from the Stiefel Freethought Foundation as evidence that we are a Democrat front group and into progressive politics. So to address this issue, I have as my guest today, Todd Stiefel. He's the president and founder of the Stiefel Freethought Foundation. Let's hear from him on why this donation, and if we receive this donation in order to help Democrats or promote progressivism. All right. Todd Stiefel, welcome to the AVC podcast.
Thank you for having me here. It's good to get a chance to talk about this. I saw the article, but they didn't reach out for me to me for comment. So it's nice to be able to talk about it. It seems journalists don't always dig in to talk both sides anymore.
Yeah, they didn't even reach out to us. Well, actually, we talked to them on X about discussing this issue before it was published. And then we had talked about speaking in August. And then the article was published without ever speaking to us before it was published. So these are all questions we could have answered, we could have addressed before publication. And Meghan Basham could have gotten the truth directly from the source, but instead she chose to just go ahead with her argument. So let's talk about her argument. So is Stiefel Freethought Foundation?
We're not stifling free thought. We're trying not to do that. We're trying.
So do you exist to help Democrats or to promote progressives?
No. We exist to promote love, reason, integrity, and freedom. And frankly, far left and far right politics are both a threat to free thought and all of those things that I hold dear.
And what are your thoughts about Democrats?
Well, I'm not one of them. I was a Republican until 2009 when I moved to North Carolina. And I read the platforms for each party when I moved here, including the Libertarians. And I wasn't a fan of any of them. But the Republican was particularly egregious. Like, first paragraph was like very, very over the top anti-gay. And I was like, why is homosexuality like the top political issue in the state? I don't understand. So I left the party. I was an independent for a long time. I became a Democrat briefly after January 6th, but the party is remarkably dysfunctional, and the identity politics is so extreme, like just so extreme that I did not feel at home there. So I lasted a few weeks and then bailed out and became an independent again.
Okay, so you're neither a Republican or a Democrat. How would you describe your political ideology?
I would say I'm kind of at this point, a left-leaning centrist. I am economically moderate to conservative, where socially I'm definitely further onto the left side. But like not on every issue. Like the left doesn't like me on some issues as well. It seems like it's both sides like a degree of ideological purity that I don't think either of us can provide. So yeah, it's hard to meet the demands and standards of the left to kind of hit everything that they really want you to fall behind.
So, I mean, are there any politicians, either Republican, Democrat, Independent, that you particularly like right now? That um,
Oh, that's a
you,
good question. I like Roy Cooper in North Carolina. I tend to like my I, 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 t- I tend to like my Dems from red states and my Republicans from blue states. Uh, Roy Cooper was the governor here in North Carolina. He was a very moderate Democratic governor and did a great job. And he's running for Senate now. So I think he's pretty solid overall.
yeah, and who was that candidate? There was a candidate in North Carolina that you were active in opposing.
This guy
Remind me. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for the camera. Yeah. Mark Robinson was a well. I mean, he still is, but he's not running for office right now. Now he's doing the whole ham it up for the social media's gig. Um, but yeah, he was running for governor and was actually winning for in the polls for a while here. And he is a like extreme far right. Um, he's a very extreme far right guy who um, is extremely eloquent and a great speaker, and I can see why he's very persuasive. Like he's a great talker. I'll give him props on that. But we went after him pretty hard in the election through my super PAC Americans for Prosperity. We ran a lot of comedic and parody ads going after him for his various stances. Although he kind of sunk himself when it came out that he's a self-identified black Nazi. Um,
Yeah.
that kind of even that was too far for some folks. That was the end of him. It
I
turns out the
mean,
Nazis like their Nazis white. They don't like their Nazis black. So you know,
Even worse than that, he identified himself as a black Nazi while being very active on a porn site, on a porn messaging board. Yeah.
yes,
So, yeah.
yeah,
You,
yep.
you don't have to actually be a Democrat to say, maybe we don't want anyone who is active on pornography message boards and promoting Nazis. So,
Yeah, he also got he also had like he like and by the way he's one of those classic hypocrites. He was like super anti pornography and
hmm
in his politics, but then in his personal life he's not. And so some folks came out and like revealed that he would go when he worked in a pizza shop once upon a time. He'd go after work and hang out at the porn shop. And he's like, oh, well, they were just like, I didn't watch any porn. They were just my friends. Like, I would just hang out there. Like, oh, yeah, of course. All those people who hate porn and hang out in porn shops. Like,
yeah,
there's
yeah,
lots of those guys, tons.
yeah. He was just sharing Jesus with the pornographers. That's all. Yeah,
Right. Of course. Yeah, of course.
yeah. Um, so, when you founded the Stiefel Freethought Foundation, what's your goal in the giving? What's the purpose? What's the main goal you want to achieve with that?
So that's kind of changed over time, actually. So originally it was very focused on improving separation of church and state, um, frankly promoting atheism and secularism but even from the beginning it was very much about trying to gain like social and political equality for non-religious people and uh it like I like really early on I actually got into it a little bit with Christopher Hitchens who was a very famous atheist and journalist and one of the smartest people I've ever met but I told him I wanted to end stigmas against non-religious people. And because of that, I wanted to work with religious people. I was like, we need allies. Like, you can't have a movement that tries to end a prejudice and discrimination without allies. And so I want to work with religious people. And he's just like, you're completely wasting your time and your money. It's a complete waste. Religion poisons everything. And, don't even talk to those people. Like, you should just be attacking religion all the time. I was like, okay, it's nice to meet you. Have a good night.
Yeah, that kind of brings up something that Meghan Basham said as well. So in the article, she accused you, I guess, or the Freethought Foundation of being antagonistic to religion.
Well, I think that depends on people's interpretation. Some people, you know, some people, if you criticize a piece of something, like to conflate it to an attack across the board. And I'm not, and don't think I ever really have been antagonistic to religion as a whole. I would say I am antagonistic to uh, religious nationalism, religious violence, um, and religious extremism. But there's a difference. And the extremists like to be like, oh, well, you attacked extremism, therefore you're attacking religion as a whole and you're attacking me. But they're different things. You can be anti-religious nationalism without being anti-religion as a whole.
Yeah, and I think this is where we find common ground, and that's basically, I mean, in a democracy, that's how democracy works, is that you have to work with people who you disagree on some things on the areas where you find agreement.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get to 50% plus one. You can't get to a majority and get anything done in a democracy if you're not willing to do that.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that completely. I think we need a variety of viewpoints in this country. And I mean, I think that, like, if you and I got down to nitty gritty on issues, we would agree on probably 90% of things, and then we would very, very seriously disagree on
Uh,
10% of them. Uh, and that's okay. And I think that the society gets to build around those 90% of things we agree on. But it seems like right now is we're so focused on the 10% of things that divide us, that the country is tearing itself up over, these sub issues, rather than rallying around the shared, the shared values that we have as a country.
yeah, and so we got the donation from you last year for the J29 coalition, which is the
Mm-hmm.
main thing that Meghan Basham is attacking. Um, and we were very upfront with all of the pastors who applied for J29 last year and were part of it. I know at one point we were talking about you would possibly go to the retreat and get to meet everyone. Everyone was excited about that, but
Sorry about that.
I think everyone was kind of understood and thought this was a great thing that we're able to work together, even though, like you said, there's the 10% we disagree on, but we're still able to come together on areas of agreement.
Yeah, I thought that part of the article is interesting because it was just like this sniffs of preemptive damage control, and like that never came up. like, like
Oh yeah,
just this assumption, like we never talked about this is damage control. It was just like, yeah, we should mention this. We should be open and, not hiding. And it was just also something like we also did it just to frankly talk about the fact that this is an example of people on different wavelengths coming together. Like she wants to paint me as a Dem, which I'm not, but like at the same time, we are definitely not aligned on religious grounds. I'm an atheist. And we did this not for damage control purposes, but to show that like an atheist and evangelicals can be aligned on a functional democracy based on truth and based on reality and based on a system where we're governing based on our common values rather than the handful of things that we don't agree on. We did it because we thought it was cool. We were working together as people who are relatively different. But, I guess you get more clicks if you try to create a nefarious conspiracy.
Yeah, and in all honesty, we did that press release hoping that we might get some press coverage out of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We ended up not, but hey, if you're if you're a reporter watching this, and want to interview us, yeah, yeah. So why did you decide to donate to AVC for this J29 Coalition project?
Uh, Frankly, because I thought it would be productive and kind of fun, and then it also it seems like it was a good cause. It was a cause where like we get an opportunity for pastors to come together on something it, where we're opposing Christian nationalism in this like information ecosystem, and we could do it in kind of a very unexpected kind of way. Like you would never expect like an atheist to do this, nor would I really have like imagined myself donating to a pastor's coalition as an atheist and as an atheist activist. Like it was not something you would ever really e- expect, and I kind of dig the unexpected, and it was an opportunity to do what like I talked about all those years ago at Hitchin. It was like this is an opportunity to work with religious people on an area of common ground, even if we're like we're very clearly different on religious grounds. And I I thought it could be both productive and fun and just something unexpected. So I you guys pitched me on it, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, this is something really good that can make a difference. That could help push back against this, kind of radical right that borders on fascism now. And so I did it because I thought it was the right thing to do, frankly.
Yeah, and we much appreciate it. I mean, we've heard so many stories of where churches, evangelical churches in particular, have become so divided because the political extremists, the right wing political extremists, are targeting our churches. They see us as
Hmm.
fruitful ground where they recruit people, and they're creating this division, driving people into more and more political extremism. And it's just so needed right now for us to address this issue within evangelical churches and to help pastors with their congregations as well.
Yeah. Now, a question for you: are you folks seeing kind of the demand for not religious purity, but like a political ideological purity, where like if you don't adhere to MAGA standards and kind of agree with MAGA across the board, that there's like harsh, often ad hominem attacks?
Yeah, exactly, and that's exactly what Meghan Basham's article is doing, right? There, it's basically, when you come down to it, her main uh, complaint is that we're not supporting Donald Trump. Is that we're not MAGA, and that in order to be like the good Christian, or the
Hmm.
the Bible believing Christian, then you need to be with the MAGA team, with Team MAGA, and if you're not, then there's something wrong with that. So, I mean, she's right to see what we're doing as uh, a threat to her project, because she wants to turn all these evangelicals into sort of it turned their religious identity into this political identity of supporting the MAGA candidates.
Yeah, it kind of thing happens on the left too, frankly. Um, there's definitely a yeah, well, I mean, let's. I wasn't sure if I would bring this up or not, but I'll bring it up. Why not? Because it's like super controversial, and the left, and I may have some friends angry with me on this, but like there's issues on the left where people on the left are afraid to talk about them, and like well, I see myself as more of a centrist. A lot of the people I know and hang out with are lefties because, well, like if you're, if you're not religious and you're not MAGA, we we tend to flock together, especially here in North Carolina. But like, let's say the issue of transgender people in sports, and like, I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna get in trouble.
Do it.
But I believe follow the science, and like on all issues, and the science is clear that having male chromosomes provides advantages in sports. Like, it's crystal clear. There is no, you can't change your genetic code. And while I totally support transgender people in getting, a workplace and housing equality and not being, fired for being transgender, it doesn't it it doesn't mean you can play sports against people with different chromosomes and suddenly it's magically fair. It just simply is not. And believe me, if people on the left hear this, they're going to be so mad at me about this, because it's like, you can't have ideological purity. But this is what free thought is about. Like, this is a free thought foundation. Free thought is following the evidence, following what the reality, and it doesn't conform to ideological like purity. It does not, like, just. But the left has this. Well, I think both sides, really, like the left and the right, have this: if you don't follow exactly what we believe, we will try to silence you. We will attack you. They're gonna call me a rich white man and a bigot, and like, that's what happens. Um, and like, no, like, I believe follow the science, and but I believe follow the science and avoid those who try to silence, because we should be having discussions on these issues and figuring out what the optimal is. And you can't have these conversations if, one side of the divide or the other comes rushing in and demands, purity on it.
Yeah, so we're addressing hyperpolarization as it affects the right side of American politics, but the reason we have hyperpolarization is because it's happening on both sides, right? That's
Oh,
what the
absolutely.
polarization is.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a right-wing media and information bubble, and there's a left-wing media information bubble, and people inside these bubbles, um, oftentimes they're not having conversations with people outside their bubbles, or willing to think outside those bubbles and taking a broad spectrum of information. So yeah, it's a big problem.
It is, and frankly, I think one of the things that scares me the most is what the pendulum swinging as we become more polarized and more radicalized on both sides. Like, the pendulum has swung to like MAGA conservatism, which is like, yeah, it's borderline fascist. It's a denial of reality. It's like January 6th was just a big patriotic parade. Yay. Like,
Hmm.
no, like, the evidence is really clear. Like, it was utter lawlessness and rebellion. But on the other side, I'm afraid the pendulum's going to swing the other way, and we're going to end up with, socialists in charge. That we're going to end up with people in charge that want huge government, that believe the government can do it better than others. And we're like seeing it in New York with the candidate there who wants like government run grocery stores. And it's like, is that, like, where's the why do we think the government, who can't run the freaking DMV, can run a grocery store better than the private sector, who's doing it on like 1% margin? Like, it's like one of the most efficient industries, and yet these people come in and they think like, we need to make government bigger, we need to put it in charge of our businesses. And it's scary, because like, they could completely crush our economy if we flip to the other side of the equation there. So um yeah, it's the danger, and I'm seeing it on the left. I'm seeing people rallying around people like AOC and Bernie Sanders, and it's like, oh my gosh, that would
Yeah.
be horrific for the country, just in a very different way.
Yeah. So, and yeah, I would just remind all my Democrat friends that if your feelings about executive overreach right now be consistent. Why that we needed that voice when Obama was president and when Biden was president and the next Democrat president. Remember where you stand on executive overreach and be consistent. That's what I would urge my Democrat friends to do.
I think it's a very, very reasonable request because, yeah, this has been growing for decades now. And it's not just the Republicans who've been doing executive overreach. You're right. Like the Dems have been doing it too. And it's getting us in a pickle. And, I would encourage the same thing on gerrymandering. Like it's not good for Texas to gerrymander the heck out of the state. And it's not good for California to do it either. And we're getting into this like ends justifies the means moral code of like, well, they're doing it, so we should do it. And it's just going to end up being bad for everybody. We're all going to have less representation and we're going to end up with our politicians picking us rather than us picking our politicians, which is what we have already in North Carolina. We're gerrymandered like crazy here.
So, but one last question that I was curious about. So, if you go to the Stiefel Freethought Foundation website, all the donations you can find right there everywhere that you donated. You don't have to do that, right? You don't have to make that information public. So why make that information public?
Just transparency. Like, in all honesty, it's not every donation. It's anything over $5,000 because there's like tons of little tiny ones. But
yeah.
But no, it's just transparency. It's just to show what we're doing, what we give to, and what we're working on. And you folks aren't the only Christian organization that I've given to. I've given to Disarming Leviathan. I gave to a group here in North Carolina that was screening the film Bad Faith that I worked on here. But yeah, I mean, you'll see that there's a lot of, if you go through it all, there's tons of stuff in all sorts of different areas where people would, it's more kind of humanist, secular humanism and science and atheism type things over the years. And but no, I don't have to reveal it all. I do it just for transparency. And, I think you people who go through that will also notice there's kind of a transition over the years where I've kind of shifted more to pro-science and anti-misinformation and less to the kind of atheist side of things.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I appreciate. And again, I appreciate us being able to work together on these issues.
Yeah,
and
it's great. More of us should be working together.
Yeah, it's just been great getting to know you as a person as well. So I appreciate that. All right, Todd Stiefel, thanks for joining the AVC podcast.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate being here.